China, a nation once celebrated for its remarkable economic achievements, is now engulfed in a storm of multifaceted crises. Catastrophic floods in Hunan, crushing economic pressures from Shanghai to rural heartlands and growing public discontent are exposing a painful truth behind the glossy propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party (CCP). The country is grappling with cracks that can no longer be concealed. From dams teetering on the brink of collapsed deserted shopping malls to heart-rending stories of people losing homes, livelihoods, and loved ones, a vivid picture emerges of a China struggling with natural disasters, economic decline, and social unrest. Join us as we uncover the hidden truths, staggering statistics, and the tears of a nation in this special report. Devastating floods in Hunan. A catastrophe beyond imagination. Hunan, a central Chinese province, is enduring floods described as the worst since 1998. Relentless torrential rains have shattered historical records, transforming towns and villages into vast floodplains. The Lishui River, a major tributary of the Dongting Lake system, has surged past danger levels, with water levels at the Sanjiushang station reaching 262 meters (2.38 meters) above the safety threshold. A terrifying flow rate of 7,300 cubic meters per second has submerged homes, swept away possessions, and claimed lives. Over 310 reservoirs in counties such as Silichangde and Yuanling are at risk of overflowing, while dams like Shangnan, Dongmen, and Rongjiang have been forced to release massive water volumes to save themselves at the cost of drowning downstream communities. In Shimen County, bustling markets have been reduced to waterlogged ruins. Ms. Chen, a fruit vendor, tearfully recounted, "In just 1 hour, the floodwaters washed away goods worth over 800,000 yuan. We borrowed heavily to stock our inventory, and now we're left with nothing but debt." A major supermarket in the area, World of Fruits, reported losses exceeding 1.5 million yuan, with inventory and equipment completely destroyed. The store's owner lamented, "We worked day and night to save what we could, but the flood was too powerful. Now we're left with debts and a bleak future." The human cost, lives, and livelihoods swept away. The floods have not only destroyed property, but also taken lives and left indelible scars. In Sili County, where the Lishui River meets its Laosan tributary, entire villages have been cut off. Without electricity, clean water, or accessible roads, residents are forced to climb to the upper floors of their homes to escape rising waters. A local posted a trembling video on social media saying, "The water has been rising for 2 days without stopping. We've moved from the first floor to the third, but it's still coming. No one has come to rescue us." A mother in Shimen County shared her agony. "My son was swept away by the flood while trying to reach higher ground. We've searched for 3 days, but he's still missing. I don't know how to go on." In Huku Town, Changde City, the embankment along the Lishui River is under severe threat. Floodwaters have inundated streets, submerging hundreds of homes. A resident recounted, "We mobilized 400 people for 6 hours to save a section of the embankment, but we failed. Our village is now just mud and cries. Such stories are all too common." In Yuanling County, a temporary bridge over the Jiangnan River collapsed under the flood's force, sending debris and rocks downstream, further devastating already battered communities. The Three Gorges Dam, a ticking time bomb at China's heart. The Three Gorges Dam, China's engineering marvel on the Yangtze River, has become a focal point of fear. Facing unprecedented pressure from floodwaters pouring in from Hunan and neighboring provinces, the dam's reservoir is at risk of overflowing. The Yangtze River's water level at the Yang station near the dam has reached 55 meters, 3 meters above the warning level, forcing authorities to release water urgently. However, this has put downstream areas including Wuhan, with its 11 million residents at risk of severe flooding. Professor Li Ying, a hydrologist at Sino University, warned the Three Gorges Dam was designed to withstand a once-in-a-thousand-year flood, but these rains exceed all predictions. If the dam fails, it would be a national catastrophe. On social media, panicked citizens shared, "If the Three Gorges Dam collapses, half of China will be underwater. Where are we supposed to go?" Controversies over the dam's operations fuel further unease. Releasing sediment-laden water during the rainy season to manage silt buildup has worsened downstream flooding, as seen in the 2024 Honghu County levee breach, which displaced thousands. Dongting Lake, the dying lung of the Yangtze. Once dubbed the lung of the Yangtze River, Dongting Lake is now in critical condition. Its surface area has dwindled from 4,200 square kilometers in 1949 to under 2,000 square kilometers due to land reclamation and silt accumulation. The levees surrounding the lake, built between the 1950s and 1970s, are at risk of collapsing under the flood's pressure. Professor Dong Tran Min stated Dongting Lake can no longer regulate floods or purify water. The Three Gorges Dam's practice of storing water in the dry season and releasing muddy water during the rainy season has destroyed the lake's ecosystem. Currently, 226 levees around the lake are struggling to hold back water, but many villages below the lake's bed level have already been submerged. A resident of Honghu County said, "The government built these levees but didn't maintain them. When the lake overflows, we're trapped like fish in a net. Last year's flood took our homes, and now we face losing everything again." Estimated damages in Hunan exceed 2 billion yuan, with the poorest households facing decades-long recovery. Meanwhile, government relief efforts have been criticized as performative, with officials appearing for photo ops before abandoning residents. Economic decline, floods exacerbate a deepening crisis. The floods are not just a natural disaster, but a devastating blow to an already faltering economy. In major cities like Shanghai, the permanent population has plummeted from 30 million to about 25 million, with over 380,000 people leaving in a single month. Shopping malls stand empty, and once bustling streets now resemble ghost towns. A Shanghai blogger lamented, "Qibao Old Street is deserted. Coffee shops have no customers." Shanghai, once a dream destination, is now a city of disappointment. In Hunan, small businesses devastated by floods face no hope of recovery. A shop owner in Ximen shared, "We borrowed 800,000 yuan to run our business, but the flood took everything. Now, we're left with debt and despair." The garment industry in Rongjiang has seen widespread closures, with 80–90% of storefronts vacant. A street vendor in Shizhou bitterly remarked, "There are no customers anymore. Business is tougher than during the pandemic." Rising unemployment has pushed workers into gig jobs like delivery or ride-hailing, but even these sectors are now fiercely competitive. A 24-year-old university graduate in Shenzhen said, "I graduated from college, but no one will hire me. I'm in debt and can't afford rent. What am I supposed to do?" Such stories reflect a grim reality across China. Social discontent, waning trust in the CCP. Public frustration with the CCP is mounting as accusations of cover-ups and mismanagement grow. Reservoirs built shoddily in the 1950s and 1970s, dubbed tofu projects, are collapsing under flood pressure. Dr. Chen Yi, an environmental scholar, revealed, over 3,500 reservoirs in Hunan are hazardous. Built by farmers, not engineers, they can't withstand the floods. Authorities, prioritizing dam preservation over human lives, have released water without warnings, devastating downstream communities. On social media, citizens openly criticize the CCP. A Yuanling resident posted, "They come for relief photo shoots and then leave us to drown." Charity drives are met with suspicion of corruption, with many donating just zero. Or one yuan commenting, "Why give money to corrupt officials?" A Shanghai blogger questioned, "The CCP boasts about Shanghai as a global metropolis, but why are the streets empty? Why are we forced to leave?" This disillusionment extends beyond cities to rural areas where elderly residents over 60 toil selling vegetables to survive. Hidden truths. The CCP faces mounting pressure. Behind the statistics and propaganda, the CCP is desperately concealing a harsh reality. China is facing a comprehensive crisis. From the floods ravaging Hunan, the looming threat of the Three Gorges Dam's collapse, to the collapse of industries and mass exodus from cities, all signs point to systemic mismanagement and opacity. Official figures are often manipulated to downplay the crisis's severity. A Shanghai resident fumed. They claim the population only dropped slightly, but the streets are empty. They say the economy is stable, but shops are closing everywhere. We don't trust them anymore. Heart-wrenching stories like a young girl wearing an orange on her head to sell goods for medicine, or a father losing his son to floodwaters, have become symbols of public helplessness in the face of an indifferent system. A Hunan resident said, "We once believed the CCP would protect us, but now we feel abandoned. If the Three Gorges Dam fails, will they take responsibility? A warning for the future." Today's China is a bleak landscape where floods, economic decline, and social unrest intertwine, creating a full-scale crisis. The floods in Hunan have not only swept away homes and livelihoods, but exposed deep flaws in the CCP's governance. The Three Gorges Dam, once a national pride, now looms as a ticking time bomb threatening millions downstream. Meanwhile, cities like Shanghai witness an unprecedented exodus as residents abandon urban dreams for survival in rural areas, only to face poverty and injustice there too. This is a wake-up call for a nation on the brink. Can the CCP confront these challenges, or will it continue to hide the truth with empty promises? The Chinese people, from farmers toiling in fields to unemployed graduates, are waiting for answers. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for the latest updates on this unfolding crisis. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for our next reports. Thank you for joining us.
Next time I pass by this road, I really have to be more careful. I suspect this is caused by the design itself. Why is the ground sinking like this? Look, just look, this is not a small issue. It's obviously a balloon underneath. This thing was repaired less than a year ago, and it's already about to collapse. Let me say this first. It has nothing to do with me, I just happened to see it. This is clearly a Tofu-Dreg project, covered in stone on the outside, but filled with dirt inside. Tofu-Dreg, it's really Tofu-Dreg. The building is brand new, not even in use yet, and there are no proper joints. It's already collapsed. I saw it fall with my own eyes. Everyone, take a look. This immoral developer used hollow, paper-thin PVC pipes for water supply. How can pipes like these last 50 years? I doubt they'll even last 10. Oh my God, the balcony just fell. I have to report this tonight. There's no rebar at all, not even one. It's truly a Tofu-Dreg project. Look at this. Does this even look like cement? This is my ceiling. It's just dirt mixed together. All the good materials have been taken elsewhere. Look, it's all crushed stone powder inside, not even a trace of real cement. Where's the cement? Did someone eat it? Can you see this? Look closely. It's just sand inside. This is absolutely a Tofu-Dreg construction. We're lucky no one's died yet. It's all made with thermal insulation foam. Who dares to buy a house like this? It's terrifying. Is this even a brick? Can this be called a brick? These are the bricks they used. Everyone look! The whole country should take a good look. This is the brick they used. Look at it. The bricks inside are crushed, completely squashed. Ha 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 ha. This house cost nearly 3 million yuan to buy, and nearly 1 million for interior decoration. After discovering cracks, I suspected it was due to ground subsidence. When we dug a hole, sure enough, there was construction waste underneath, scrap metal, discarded insulation material, and woven bags. Look at the inside. It's all Tofu-Dreg. Truly Tofu-Dreg. Here, this foam layer, it's Tofu-Dreg. Selling it for hundreds of thousands of yuan with this kind of quality? Look at this Tofu-Dreg project in Shibaizi. Water has already flooded the first floor of the house. Everyone look! This is what the support pillars have become. Who dares to park here? Who even dares to live here anymore? This stuff is nothing more than flour. Tofu-Dreg construction projects are popping up all over China. In Danchang Country Garden, materials were cut, corners were shaved, and construction was rushed to save costs. 11 buildings are now facing the risk of collapse. Within less than 3 years, they've already rusted so badly that they need to be rebuilt. Netizens reported that in the Country Garden Huayuan City project, located in Danchang Town, Dianbai District, Maoming City, Guangdong Province, from buildings 68 to 79, the underground parking lot and even the main load-bearing walls of the towers are severely corroded, with rebar exposed. Shells were found among fallen concrete fragments, raising suspicion that sea sand was used in construction. More than 1,000 households are terrified, too scared to return home. Everyone feels like they're on the edge of a cliff. Look, all the rebar is rusted. Just look at this cement and concrete. No one can feel safe about this. And this is supposed to be the load-bearing column. See that? It's not just one side. Cracks are everywhere. Look, the whole thing is split apart. The steel bars snap off with just a little rust. Oh my God, it's all hollow inside. Look at this. Oh my God. One resident revealed that on the afternoon of April 20th, while testing the columns in Building 76 of Country Garden, they discovered seashells, likely indicating the use of sea sand. But sea sand is banned in construction. So why are shells being found in the concrete? How could homes like these possibly pass quality inspections? Look here. This spot is where the poor quality steel is. This piece, right here at this joint, see it? You have to take a slanted photo to catch it clearly. We need 2 more people to document this. I'm afraid my phone won't last. Battery's dying. We must preserve this evidence. This is shameless. Just black sand everywhere. Look at this main beam. I don't even know if it was supposed to be a type 20 or 18, but now there's nothing left. The steel bar is completely broken. The beam is severely cracked, and the markings on the steel have rusted away. Maybe it was type 16, but now it's all corroded. The quality is a serious problem. This section of concrete has also crumbled to pieces. The rusted rebar has snapped completely. The main steel rods have thinned down. Whether they were originally 20 or 18 millimeters, they're now under 14 millimeters. You can clearly see that from a cross-section. It's deeply worrying. How can anyone live in such a house? Building 73 even forced residents to accept 2 such completely ruined units. One resident said that in the Country Garden community in Maoming, Guangdong, many homeowners have taken to the internet to complain that just 2 years after moving in, buildings 68 to 79 showed major structural problems in the basement parking levels. Over 30 to 40 load-bearing columns were found to be cracked, exposing thin, heavily rusted rebar. A light touch makes sand and dust fall out. Some steel bars have even snapped, and the concrete can be crushed by hand. Many suspect the use of sea sand in construction. The issue came to light when residents discovered property managers secretly patching the columns. Only then did people realize the load-bearing structure was compromised. One netizen commented, "Jack Ma once said that homes in the future would be as cheap as cabbages, but now they're not even worth cabbages." At first, people thought it was an earthquake, but it turned out to be a cloud of dust and falling balconies. 4 homes were fully furnished, yet no one dares live in them. In China, Tofu-Dreg construction is everywhere. Recently, in a residential complex in Weihai, Shandong Province, balconies from the 2nd to the 6th floor collapsed. A video filmed by a resident shows the fallen parts lacked any rebar at all. One resident said the building was handed over in 2021, and within less than 4 years, this happened. The balcony snapped right after someone walked past. This is China's infamous specialty, slashing materials to the bare minimum. When installing lights and drilling into the walls, residents discovered that both the concrete and steel indices were extremely low. During construction, many contractors had no intention of building lasting structures. They just wanted to cut costs, as long as nothing major happened during the warranty period. But once something goes wrong, the consequences are disastrous. Netizens also pointed out that on the Hu-Wu Expressway, a bridge pillar showed severe exposed rusting rebar. The outer layer crumbles with just a light tap, posing a major safety hazard. Just look at this bridge column. It's already in such a state of decay. The steel inside is nearly rotten. Even thick steel bars have corroded. This is truly a haunted project. Some even call it a beastly construction. The steel is rusted right up to the pillar's top. How many more years can a structure like this possibly last? This is the ground floor of building number 8 in Bikuiwan, Shaoyang. The scene is truly terrifying. The foundation from the 17th to the 18th floor looks like this already. Would you still dare to live here? A netizen posted a video lamenting, "Just look at the quality of Tofu-Dreg construction in China today." Ancient buildings have withstood thousands of years of wind and rain, yet now, just a light breeze causes lake bridge railings to collapse. The scene remains completely unchanged. I've never seen anything so horrifying. Look at these cracks. They're all hollow inside. This half section of the wall is also completely hollow. Look at this crack. It's laughable. Recently, Chinese state media reported that in a 30-year-old residential area in Shenzhen, Yueliangguan Garden, 10 out of 40 buildings have been classified as dangerous. The first phase buildings were completed in 1992, making them over 32 years old. Steel bars are exposed and heavily rusted in many places, and the structures are in serious disrepair. Some residents say living there feels dangerously insecure. With a 70-year property right but only a 40-year structural lifespan, the home ends up being a joke. When it's gone, who do you turn to? Once it's lost, it's lost. Your asset vanishes into thin air. People worry that within the next 20 years, cities will be filled with such buildings. Impossible to demolish, elevators out of service, homes deteriorated with no one taking responsibility. Buying a Tofu-Dreg home is truly bad luck, just 30 years old, and it's already like this. That's why you shouldn't expect your house to retain value. Even with 70-year usage rights, homes are falling apart after just over 30 years. I once personally peeled the wall of my own apartment to see the truth. The wall in Bikuiwan looks fine on the outside, but inside tells a different story. The developer admitted there were quality problems and sent workers to fix them, but the result was that from the 1st to the 3rd floor, walls and stairwells were all leaking and moldy. I bought an apartment in Huaxi Bikuiwan in June 2018. After moving in, I noticed severe wall dampness and water seepage. On rainy days, just touching the wall made my hand wet. The developer offered only temporary fixes. Wallpaper was removed, some milky liquid injected, and rooftop waterproofing started, but then abandoned due to unpaid contractors. Water leakage is widespread throughout the entire community. What's more alarming is that since 2021, my son developed allergic dermatitis. My daughter suffers constant itching and rashes, and I've had chest tightness and a persistent cough. Our whole family fell ill. A doctor asked about our living conditions, and when the wallpaper was peeled back again, we found the wall covered in thick black mold. This experience showed me that housing quality directly impacts health. Mold is even more dangerous than formaldehyde. I can't keep living in this apartment, and I hope the developer takes housing quality seriously, so no one else has to go through the suffering my family did. Guangdong's manufacturing industry plunges into a deep freeze as foreign giants pull out. As the global economy falters and international trade tensions escalate, Guangdong's once thriving manufacturing hub is being battered by a fresh wave of bankruptcies and closures. On June 30th, two major players, the long-established export-driven Nanhai lighting factory in Foshan and a renowned foreign enterprise in Dongguan, issued shutdown notices announcing the end of operations. Insiders reveal that shrinking demand from the US and Europe has decimated export orders since the start of the year. Many now predict that nearly half of Zhongshan's lighting manufacturers may go under by year's end. Hit hard by the collapsing global economy and intensified US trade pressure, Guangdong's industrial engine is sputtering. On June 30th, the Foshan Nanhai lighting factory released an open letter citing global instability, economic downturn, and insolvency as reasons for its immediate closure. The factory, once a regular presence at major international trade fairs and renowned for its high-quality products and loyal overseas clients, will now settle debts and cease all operations. Ms. Chen, a business consultant who once accompanied the factory to the Hong Kong International Lighting Fair, was heartbroken. They had a loyal customer base abroad. It's truly heartbreaking to see them go, she told the Epoch Times on July 3rd. Ms. Chen noted that since May, overseas orders in the lighting sector have nosedived. If we hadn't pivoted to the domestic market in time, we wouldn't have survived either. She warned that Zhongshan is on track to lose nearly half its lighting factories this year. Meanwhile, other factory owners are already shifting operations overseas. Mr. Tan Dalin, who ran lighting and foreign trade businesses in Beijing and Changsha for nearly 20 years, announced he's halting production in China to focus on his plant in Vietnam. The US-China trade war has hit us harder than the pandemic, he said. Even with faster logistics, there are no orders, and tariffs are too high. It's just not sustainable. Foreign invested firms are faring no better. On June 25th, Canadian tech giant Celestica's Dongguan branch, Tianhong Technology, announced it would dissolve by the end of June and terminate all employee contracts starting July 1st. In its notice, the company blamed market changes and future strategic adjustments, promising to compensate workers in accordance with Chinese labor law. Authorities confirmed the dissolution filing has been officially recorded. Founded in 2004 with a registered capital of $32.5 million, Tianhong was based in Dongguan's Songshan Lake and served as an OEM powerhouse for global tech brands like IBM, HP, and Cisco. With a 236-acre factory and over 500 staff, it was once Celestica's crown jewel in South China. Globally, Celestica employs over 40,000 people and was once ranked among Business Weekly's top 100 IT firms. Ms. Wu, a former employee of a state-owned enterprise in Dongguan, said the collapse of Tianhong reflects a wider shift. North American clients are accelerating the relocation of production due to geopolitical risks. Factories are moving to Mexico, Vietnam, and Eastern Europe. China is no longer a priority. Made in China is now seen as a geopolitical liability in the West. And it's not just Foshan and Dongguan. Zhongshan, too, is seeing a quiet exodus. Several companies have had their industrial licenses revoked. According to the Zhongshan Municipal Market Supervision Bureau, licenses for Jinshengwei Paper and Fuying Daily Chemical were canceled for non-compliance with production requirements. While the notices don't mention bankruptcy, they expose the regulatory and survival pressures suffocating local manufacturers. Official data shows that in Q1 2025, Zhongshan recorded a net loss of 22 companies, many of which relocated to cities like Foshan, Guangzhou, and Zhuhai. It's a sign that Guangdong's industrial landscape is undergoing painful restructuring. Industry insiders are sounding the alarm. "It's worse than the darkest days of the pandemic," said one. "Factories dependent on foreign trade are being hit hardest." Ms. Wu summed it up. Trade wars, tariffs, rising costs, and vanishing orders are accelerating the de-China trend in global manufacturing.
China now drowns in a cascade of crises that threaten its very foundation. From catastrophic floods overwhelming cities to reservoirs teetering on the brink of collapse, the Chinese people are losing faith in a system that promised stability. Behind the CCP's polished propaganda, a grim truth emerges. Decades of mismanagement and environmental neglect have left the nation vulnerable, with the iconic Three Gorges Dam now at risk from unprecedented rainfall. Today, we expose the hidden realities: raging floodwaters, failing infrastructure, and a society pushed to the edge. Join us as we uncover these stories and the looming threat to the Three Gorges Dam in today's report, A Flooded Province, Hunan's Relentless Deluge. Since June 18, 2025, Hunan province has been battered by relentless torrential rains, shattering historical records with their ferocity. The Li River basin, feeding into the vast Dongting Lake system, has seen water levels surge past critical thresholds. Dams like the Zhongnan Power Station Dongmen Dam and Sanjiangkou Dam in Ximen County are releasing torrents of water, but the sheer volume is overwhelming. Over 310 reservoirs across Hunan, from Sili County to Changde and Yuanling, face imminent overflow risks. Floodwaters have ravaged communities, submerging homes, destroying businesses, and claiming lives. Social media is flooded with videos showing the Hawaiian hydropower station on the Li River completely underwater, its nearby Haiyan substation teetering on the edge of inundation. A local farmer, Mr. Zhang, shared his anguish. The power stations are dumping water to save themselves, but it's us ordinary people who pay the price. The Li River's water is spilling over the dam's crest gates. Portugal's gates don't even need to open anymore. If this dam collapses downtown, Yuanling will be wiped out. The floods have not only overwhelmed dams, but also breached river embankments. On June 19th, the Li River recorded its worst flood since 1998, with the Censorship station upstream reaching a peak of 262 meters, 2.38 meters above the safety threshold, and a flow rate of 7,300 cubic meters per second. Other stations like Liang Coast and Gui River in Yuanling reported record-breaking flood levels, exacerbating the disaster. In Ximen County, torrential rains triggered a devastating flood peak. Shops in the county town were submerged, leaving business owners reeling. A fruit vendor near the Li Bridge, Ms. Chen, recounted her loss. "We took out an 800,000 yuan loan to stock our store. The flood hit so fast, within an hour, everything was underwater. Our stock, worth over 800,000 yuan, rotted overnight. We fled to save our lives but left everything behind. Now we're still paying off the loan with nothing to show for it." Another business, Fruit World Supermarket, lost over 1.5 million yuan, with 1 million in goods and 500,000 in equipment ruined. "Our 1,000 square meter store was completely flooded," the owner said. "We're working around the clock to clean up, but everything touched by the water is unsalvageable." The human toll. Lives and livelihoods washed away. The floods have swept through Changde, Taoan, Ximen, and Yuanling counties, swallowing entire towns. In many areas, government rescue efforts were absent, forcing villagers to flee to higher ground. A resident in Sili County posted a desperate video. "The water's been rising for 2 days, and it's not stopping. We've moved from the first floor to the second, and now we're preparing to climb to the third." In Huku Town, Changde City, residents watched in terror as the Li River threatened to breach its embankments, with water already spilling onto nearby streets. In Sili County, where the Li River meets its Laos tributary, the damage was catastrophic. A villager explained, "This is the worst flood since 1998. The Laos River is pouring into the Li, and we barely saved a section of the riverbank after 400 people worked for 6 hours. The county towns holding but smaller villages are devastated. Villages in Sili County remain cut off without water, electricity, or road access. The Zhongnan River Power Station is discharging water at full capacity, with gates fully open, sending water plumes 2 stories high. A local warned people downstream take precautions now." On June 19th, The Sanjiangkou Reservoir exceeded its warning level, and a temporary footbridge near Ximen's four bridges was obliterated by the flood's force. Debris and rocks carried downstream destroyed the temporary Zhongnan River Bridge, built to support a larger construction project. The bridge collapsed last night, a resident said. The debris piled up and the pressure was too much. This flood has crushed us in Yuanling. The Three Gorges Dam, a ticking time bomb. The relentless rainfall now threatens the Three Gorges Dam, China's largest hydroelectric project, and a symbol of national pride. Located on the Yangtze River, the dam faces unprecedented pressure as floodwaters from Hunan and neighboring provinces surge downstream. The Dongting Lake system, a critical buffer for the Yangtze, is overwhelmed with water levels rising due to inflows from the Lixiangzi and Yuan rivers. The Three Gorges Reservoir, already strained by releases from upstream dams like Zhongnan, risks overflow. On June 20th, the Yangtze's water level at Yichang near the dam hit 55 meters, 3 meters above the alert level, prompting emergency discharges. Experts warn that a failure at Three Gorges could devastate millions downstream, including Wuhan, a city of 11 million. Professor Li Ming, a hydrologist at Tsinghua University, cautioned, "The Three Gorges Dam was designed for a 1,000-year flood, but these rains are testing its limits. Uncontrolled releases from smaller dams are compounding the risk. Social media is rife with fear. If Three Gorges fails, it's not just Hunan, half of China could be underwater. The dam's operation has long been controversial with its seasonal water management, disrupting the Yangtze's natural flow. During wet seasons, it releases muddy water to prevent silting, but this increases downstream flooding. In 2024, a levee breach in Huarong County was linked to excessive releases from Three Gorges, amplifying local floods. Systemic failures reservoirs as Tofu-Dreg projects. Hunan's 4,000 reservoirs built during the 1950s-1970s water conservancy campaigns are a weak link in flood control. Over 3,500 are deemed dangerous due to shoddy construction typical of China's Tofu-Dreg projects. These reservoirs were built by farmers, not engineers, said Dr. Chen Wei, an environmental scholar. They're crumbling under pressure they were never designed to handle. The CCP's three-tier management system prioritizes dam safety over human lives, with officials evaluated on reservoir stability, not public welfare. During floods, they release water to protect dams, leaving downstream communities to suffer. A contractor in Changde revealed reservoirs are leased for fish farming and tourism. During dry seasons, they hoard water for profit, but when rains come, they dump it without warning. On June 20th, a roadbed collapse on Provincial Highway 518 in Sili County halted traffic with cracks in the road widening to half a meter. Landslides and eroded mud further destabilized the area. The land itself is splitting, a local engineer said. We're covering cracks with tarps, but water keeps pouring down the mountains. The Dongting Lake. The kidney of the Yangtze is in critical condition. Decades of land reclamation and sedimentation have shrunk its surface area from 4,200 square kilometers in 1949 to less than 2,000 today. CCP policies like converting lake beds for farming and fish ponds have created ravines and degraded water quality. The Three Gorges Dam has worsened this, reducing sediment flow and disrupting seasonal water cycles. Studies show a 20% reduction in Dongting's annual surface area since 2003, with eutrophication inside dikes far exceeding natural levels. The lake can't regulate floods or purify water anymore, said Professor Tongchan Ming. The Three Gorges clear water storage in dry seasons and muddy discharges in wet seasons have broken the ecosystem. The 2025 floods have pushed Dongting Lake to its breaking point, with 226 dikes struggling to hold back rising waters. Villages below lakebed level face severe risks as dikes built during the same flawed era as the reservoirs are prone to breaches. A 2024 breach in Huarong County displaced thousands and locals fear a repeat. The government builds dikes but doesn't maintain them, a villager posted. We're sitting ducks when the lake overflows. The floods have exacted a brutal toll. In Ximen County, businesses lost millions, with one shop owner lamenting, "Our 800,000 yuan loan is still unpaid, but our inventory is gone. We evacuated in minutes, or we'd be dead." In Sili County, entire villages are isolated with no power or clean water. A mother shared, "We're rationing food on the third floor watching the river rise. There's no help coming." Damages across Hunan exceed 2 billion yuan, with recovery timelines stretching years for the poorest households. The CCP's flood response has drawn ire. Relief efforts are often performative, with officials seizing photo ops while neglecting real aid. They show up for the cameras, then leave us to drown, a Yuanling resident posted. Charity drives face skepticism, with netizens donating 0.01 yuan and commenting, "Why give money to corrupt officials?" The government's silence on the Three Gorges threat fuels panic, with posts about dam failure censored within hours. They don't want us to know the risk, one user wrote. "If Three Gorges collapses, it's the end for us all." The flood crisis exposes the CCP's systemic flaws. Reservoirs and dikes built as symbols of progress are now liabilities due to poor construction and mismanagement. Officials profit from reconstruction contracts, turning disasters into opportunities. "Floods are a goldmine for them," a Changde contractor said. "They rebuild with the same shoddy methods and will be here again in a decade." The hukou system leaves rural victims without urban aid, deepening inequality. Social media buzzes with outrage. The CCP builds monuments to itself while we lose everything. Where's our voice? The Three Gorges Dam, once a testament to China's ambition, now symbolizes its hubris. Its design flaws and environmental toll amplify flood risks, yet the government downplays the danger. A 2025 study by the Chinese Academy of Sciences noted a 95 mm drop in Dongting Lake's annual rainfall and a 47.1 mm rise in evaporation since the dam's operation, straining water resources. "The dam was meant to control floods, but it's made them worse," said Dr. Chen. "We're paying for their arrogance." Toxic food scandals. A nation poisoned. In the sprawling markets of Henan and Shandong, where vibrant stalls once symbolized abundance, a sinister truth is emerging. Between 2022 and 2025, authorities uncovered over 15,000 cases of contaminated food products, from fake infant formula laced with melamine to vegetables doused in illegal pesticides, according to state media outlet Global Times. These scandals have reignited fears of the 2008 milk crisis, which killed 6 infants and sickened $300,000. Genetic testing revealed some organic produce contained pesticide residues 10 times above safe limits, capable of causing liver damage or neurological disorders. Alarmingly contaminated rice and cooking oil have been traced to supply chains feeding school canteens and hospitals. The Chinese public is outraged but unsurprised. On Weibo, one user posted, "Is anything safe to eat anymore? First milk, now rice. When will this end?" Another from Henan shared a chilling story. "My daughter fell ill after eating school lunch. The hospital said it was pesticide poisoning. How can we trust what we feed our kids?" The U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) has warned that China's lax regulations pose a global risk as contaminated exports have reached markets in Asia and Europe. Yet the CCP's response remains muted, with inspections often announced in advance, allowing violators to evade scrutiny. With food prices soaring 25% since 2023, families are forced to choose between hunger and poison. Can China's food supply ever be trusted again? While cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen gleam with skyscrapers, millions of migrant workers toil in the shadows, their lives expendable in the eyes of the system. In 2025, over 290 million migrant laborers, nearly a fifth of China's population, face unprecedented hardship, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Factory closures in Guangdong have left 1.2 million workers jobless since 2024, with wages unpaid for months. In Dongguan, a migrant worker named Li Wei told South China Morning Post, "I haven't been paid in 4 months. I sleep under a bridge because I can't afford rent. My family back in Hunan depends on me, but I have nothing left to send." Personal stories reveal a brutal reality. In Shenzhen, a construction worker described surviving on 1 meal a day, scavenging leftovers from street vendors. "We're treated like machines, not humans," he said. "If I get sick or injured, there's no hospital for me, only debt." Reports of workplace accidents are rising, with 3,500 deaths in construction sites in 2024 alone, yet compensation is rare. Social media is awash with videos of workers protesting unpaid wages only to be met with police batons. One netizen wrote, "The CCP boasts of prosperity, but we're starving under their skyscrapers. Where's the Chinese dream for us? The government's hukou system, tying benefits to rural hometowns, leaves migrants without health care or social safety nets in cities. This invisible workforce, once the backbone of China's growth, is now a ticking time bomb of despair." Education collapse. A generation betrayed China's education system, once a beacon of opportunity, is crumbling under the weight of inequality and corruption. In 2025, 12.2 million university graduates entered a job market, with a youth unemployment rate of 21%, the highest in decades per official data. Rural schools in provinces like Gansu and Hunan are closing at an alarming rate, over 4,000 in 2024, alone leaving millions of children without access to education. A teacher in Hunan shared, "My school has no heat, no books, and a leaking roof. Parents can't afford fees, so kids just drop out." Meanwhile, elite urban schools charge exorbitant fees, creating a chasm between rich and poor. Corruption scandals have further eroded trust. In Jiangsu, a college admission scam exposed officials selling university spots for up to 500,000 yuan, sparking protests from parents. A mother in Nanjing cried, "I sold my jewelry to pay for my son's tutoring, but he was cheated out of a future." What's left for us? On Douyin, students share stories of Gaokao factories where relentless pressure leads to mental health crises, with suicide rates among teens rising 15% since 2022. Netizens lament the system rewards the rich and punishes the poor. Education was our ladder out of poverty, but now it's a trap. The CCP's promise of meritocracy lies in tatters, leaving a generation questioning their future. Catastrophic floods in Hunan. On July 1, 2025, Hunan province was ravaged by a catastrophic flood, the worst in a century. In Zhengzhou, from 2:15 to 2:25 p.m., floodwaters surged through the city, swallowing streets, metro stations, and homes. Cars floated like debris, shops were inundated, and ancestral homes were reduced to rubble. Drone footage showed water levels reaching 8 meters, submerging entire neighborhoods. "How did this happen so fast?" one resident posted on Weibo, capturing the shock of millions. The aftermath was devastating. Mud piled 2 meters high, vehicles were mangled, and families lost heirlooms and livelihoods. Damages reached 150 million yuan, with some households losing 60 million yuan, including appliances and vehicles. A young father shared, "We lost everything, 30 million yuan worth of savings and property. Rebuilding will take a decade. For rural families, recovery could take a generation." Charity drives faced public scorn, with many donating just 0.01 yuan, commenting, "Why give to organizations that pocket our money?" The floods exposed not just natural fury, but systemic failures, as locals blamed unannounced dam releases for amplifying the disaster. In Zhejiang, a hub of entrepreneurship, businesses are collapsing at an unprecedented rate. Over 8,000 small firms in Hangzhou face bankruptcy, with export orders down 55% since 2024 per local reports. Owners juggle mounting debts, with some resorting to illegal loans to survive. A factory owner in Ningbo said, "I followed every rule, but I'm drowning in debt. The system doesn't care about us." Real estate is in freefall, with home prices in Wenzhou dropping 60%. A villa once valued at 5 million yuan now sells for 1.8 million at auction. Residents are desperate. A Yiwu merchant shared "I sell trinkets at the night market, but officials can seize my stall any day. How do I feed my kids?" A recent crackdown on unlicensed vendors sparked clashes with thousands protesting. One vendor shouted, "The CCP promised us prosperity, but we're fighting for scraps. Where's our right to live?" The economic collapse has shattered the myth of the Chinese dream, leaving millions questioning the system's legitimacy. Voices silenced, trust shattered. Public distrust permeates every sector. Charity appeals for Hunan's flood victims were met with mockery with donations of 0.01 yuan and comments like, "I'd rather buy rice than trust these groups." A Zhejiang resident said, "We don't believe in charity anymore. Who gets our money?" The CCP social media posts about food scandals or unemployment are deleted within hours labeled misinformation. One user wrote, "They silence us because the truth hurts. We're not allowed to question anything." This censorship fuels anger and alienation, isolating citizens in their own land. A nation on the brink, China, faces a reckoning. Toxic food, exploited migrant workers, a broken education system, and devastating floods are threads in a tapestry of crisis. Behind the CCP's sanitized reports lies the anguish of a people betrayed. The government may suppress voices, but it cannot hide the fractures splitting society apart. Is this the dawn of a seismic shift? Only time will tell. Thank you for joining China Undercover. Share your thoughts below and subscribe for the unfiltered truth about China. See you next time. See you next time. See you next time.
This is the scene after the flood. Everyone can see the current situation through the camera lens. I'm now at the flood site in Rongjiang County, Guizhou Province. Seeing this devastation, I truly don't know what to say, especially those wooden houses over there. When I was a child, I used to live in a house just like that. This flood was utterly ruthless. It completely destroyed those homes. The piles of debris in front of us were once the hard-earned belongings and lifelong savings of the local villagers. I don't know what to say. It's truly heartbreaking. This was the life's work of the elderly, and yet it was all washed away just like that. I was so frightened I cried through the entire night. There were families where both father and son were swept away. When the flood hit, we were still working. By the time we rushed over here, it was too late to save anything. In the end, everything was submerged. The water came too fast. Within just a few minutes, it had surged in. At first, it flooded the first floor, then quickly rose to the second, then the third. It was absolutely terrifying. We had no time to retreat, and the children were crying in fear. The water rose at an astonishing speed. In just about 10 minutes, the entire street was submerged. When we arrived, everyone was panicking. Power and water were cut off immediately, and communication systems failed. We couldn't get in touch with our families. The water level rose to 7 meters. The entire first floor was submerged, and water reached the second floor. It may have reached up to 9 meters. Some netizens recorded the second wave of flooding in Rongjiang, showing just how fast the water surged. In only 7 minutes, the main street of the town was completely underwater. On the afternoon of June 28, 2025, security camera footage showed that at 4:30 p.m., the town was still peaceful. But by 4:37 p.m., it had been completely swallowed by the floodwaters. Cars were swept away like toys, and shops were flooded in an instant. Many witnessed the floodwaters rushing into the town center. By around 7 p.m., the water had already reached the first floor. A resident living in a high-rise building in Rongjiang, Guizhou, recorded a video capturing the rapid rise of floodwaters after a dam breach. The flood began rising near bridge number 2, then swept toward the intersection. It was 3:39 p.m. at that time. The water came extremely fast, and everyone could only remind each other to stay safe. This water level was similar to the previous wave, quickly flooding the parking lot. Some netizens reported that it took only 7 minutes for the streets of Rongjiang to be completely submerged by the floodwaters. Where did so much water come from? This flood was truly ferocious. Many areas were entirely swept away. Others said that the second wave of flooding in Rongjiang submerged an entire village in just 10 minutes. On June 29, 2025, we arrived in Rongjiang County, Guizhou. The flood has now receded, and the watermarks left along the banks are clearly visible. People are still working hard to clean up. Total damages are estimated at around 400,000 to 500,000 yuan. We are all low-income families, and everything that was washed away represented our livelihoods. To fully recover to what we had before will take more than 10 years. These were the life savings of the elderly, now all gone. Initial estimates put the loss at about 1.2 million yuan, including 8 damaged vehicles. It will take 10 years to rebuild. For some, damages amounted to 400,000 to 500,000 yuan. Given the current business climate, even 3 years won't be enough to recover. At least 5 years will be needed. All electronic appliances, such as air conditioners and piping, were soaked and now require repairs. Personally, I suffered losses of around 200,000 yuan, and it will take me at least 2 years to rebuild everything. In Rongjiang, 1 in every 3 people was surrounded by floodwaters. Over 100,000 people have been affected. I asked around, is everyone's home still intact? It's now past 10 a.m. Let me show you outside. The scene is utterly devastated. Everyone is clearing mud from the streets. The shops that had just been cleaned a few days ago are now flooded again and must be cleaned from scratch. Cars that were submerged are still scattered everywhere. Today, I'm showing you the aftermath of the flood in Rongjiang County. The flood came too suddenly this time. Many vehicles didn't have time to be moved. The streets are covered in thick mud and water-damaged items. The destruction is beyond words. In some places, the layer of mud is over 1 meter thick. Even fuel tankers were overturned. You can imagine how terrifying this flood wave was. The people of Rongjiang are suffering deeply. In just a few days, they've endured 2 catastrophic floods. This is not a refugee camp in Syria. This is Rongjiang, Guizhou. After the disaster, this is what we're left facing. I'm now standing on a street in Rongjiang. This is the aftermath of the second flood. You can see that every shop along the road is cleaning up on their own because all of them were flooded. Every single business on this street suffered severe damage. Now the water has receded, but what's left is a chaotic battlefield. It's truly heartbreaking. I couldn't hold back my tears. Many people asked why we didn't leave. But this is our home. Where else can we go? In the previous video, many viewers asked, I live safely on the 31st floor. Why should I come down? The water can't reach that high. All I can say is, with no water, no electricity, no food or drinks, even going to the bathroom becomes a problem. The basement was completely flooded. It was impossible to survive up there. This street is where food is usually sold, and it's also the area hit the hardest. The scene on the ground is truly tragic. On June 24th, the flood struck, and when it receded, it left behind a scene too heartbreaking to bear. On June 28th, this street was once again submerged in floodwater. After the water receded, all that remained was thick, sticky mud. We are deeply grateful to the volunteers from all over who came to help. On June 28th, Rongjiang County in Guizhou Province was hit by a second round of flooding, forcing the entire town to evacuate. On the morning of the 29th, after the floodwaters receded, the streets were littered with trash and debris, resembling a massive dump site. Household appliances, toys, and cars swept away by the water were piled on top of each other, some buried under thick layers of mud. On certain streets, residents could only carry buckets and scrape mud with shovels, using the most primitive methods to clean up. Not only Rongjiang town, but also nearby towns experienced unprecedented flooding. In Leishan town, within just 2 hours, the ground floor was completely submerged. It was truly terrifying. Our entire shop was flooded. Everything was swept away. Both of our milk tea shops turned into trash in just one day. I'm on the 2nd floor now, and even here the water is nearly up to the top. I live here, and now the water has reached the toilet. Today is the 29th, and just yesterday, the 28th, the floodwaters returned. Inside the house, it's all mud. The previous flood had already submerged the entire home. While everyone was focused on Rongjiang, upstream in Sandu County, many households were also swept away by the floods. Rice, salt, cooking oil, blankets, basic necessities are in extremely short supply. They've lost internet, electricity, and water, making it impossible to contact the outside world. A netizen posted a video saying Rongjiang County was flooded again. It's heartbreaking. An elderly couple had their entire home washed away by the flood, and their children weren't there. In the video, the elderly woman stood crying in the mud, while the man leaned on a cane in the courtyard, mud reaching up to his knees. Their faces were etched with sorrow and hardship. The video poster said the couple's children were all far away, deeply worried about their parents but unable to return home. The roads are blocked. Some netizens express that the flooding in Rongjiang has touched the hearts of people across the country. The Rongjiang authorities publicly announced donation channels, but netizens seemed distrustful. Screenshots of 0.01 yuan donations flooded social media, with some sarcastically saying, "Donating 1 cent is like giving a score for trustworthiness." Others bluntly stated, "I'd rather save the money for vegetables than donate to some rich people."